Tell everybody what we support.
I play basketball, softball, and I have cheer. And when I get out of school, I go to college and become a lawyer.
And the basketball team was basketball team was real successful this year.
Yeah, we went all the way to state, or almost all the way to state, people, background, that's so good. It's a lot like rugby.
And you have everybody coming back next year though?
Yes, we have all our big and bad days having.
We didn't just class that.
Thank you. There are other student athletes that had a doctor who she's going on that. Right, well, here it is.
And I played in baseball, basketball. I didn't play basketball my junior year, but this year I decided to go through again. High school, I'm going to update to major in business administration in the which stops there.
Well, we're honored today to have our area engineer from MoDot in with us today. Danny Roeger is here. You know, Danny, or at least know the name in the area. So Danny, honored to have you. He's got a presentation to share with us today. So welcome.
So I am going to ask for a little bit of participation. I know we just did the World Fair again. I'm going to do a little more to it. I wish I had bring the candy to pass out at the board. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. You'll notice some of these slides I did not obviously put together, but some of them I did. So would I have titled this a look behind the curtain? No, but they won't let me change it. So it's not so much a look behind the curtain. Also, hopefully I can get through this pretty quick. I should provide as much answers to your question. I know about, but so how well do you know MoDot? First question is about the size of the system.
Speaker,
So size of the system, MoDot ranks what nationally, maintaining about 33,000 miles of program.
I'm gonna say B.
Is A.
Wow.
We are the 7th largest system in the union. And how many bridges and culvert structures do you think MoDot is responsible for?
D, are you including the
You're gonna see a thing in D. It is 10,000 statewide that MoDot is responsible for maintaining. Here's a tough one that people don't like talking about too much, but in 2022, how many people passed away on Missouri roads?
C?
Unfortunately, the answer is B. We're gonna probably approach nearly 1,100 fatalities on Missouri roads. Missouri, in the entire country and the union, Missouri is one of how many states that does not have an all-age texting? Right now, Missouri is 21 years old.
2.
Answer's 2. Who can name that other state?
Florida.
I bet it's Nebraska.
No,
Dakota.
you're a lot closer. Montana. There should be an asterisk actually next to this one. City of Billings is responsible for about 90% of that state's vehicle miles traveled. Not going to probably they have in all those Texas. So essentially, about the only one. Here's the rules question I was talking about earlier. What year do you think MoDot adopted access control parameters statewide? This is your driveway permits. You come to me and ask, hey, can I put a driveway at this location? I need to tell you that Yes or no?
I say
There
B.
wasn't a set method until
I bet A.
the answer is D.
Serious?
So if you wonder how 54 got to be the way it is, it grew over time. We didn't have consistent parameters statewide. The way we do that. Would we build 54 the way it is today through those 6 people, or the part that those 6 people, 54 became? So here locally, we've got we call it the RE office, resident engineer office, who administers our road bridge contracts primarily. All combines that goal. I did make this, of course. How much do you think here locally MoDOT's investing in just our transportation system? Answer C. We're going to spend about $33 million in calendar year 23 on road and bridge projects. And I'll dive into that here shortly. Go through, where is it going? Go through a couple slides here. Where does that money come from? It wouldn't be a MoDOT presentation if I didn't talk about the buckets. I'm sure you can check out our Citizens Guide to Transportation Funding. This is where this graphic comes from. About really could be probably broken up into 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 being state motor fuel taxes. That's 22 cents a gallon right now that you pay for pump. For gasoline, 17.5 in federal fuel taxes. So that's the other third that comes back from Washington back to us. And then that other third would be the other fees, revenues. That's your license fees that you pay at license office, your driver's license fees, vehicle sales tax. That's a revenue generator for the Department of Transportation and our road fund. So we are not funded through traditional appropriations through our legislators, through general revenue. Or, well, I say that there's that little yellow bubble where they provide some assistance to Amtrak and other responsibilities. And then where it's all spent, of course, about 15%. Yeah. What I really want to talk about today is on that bottom bucket, that second from the right, that 17 or $1.7 billion. Where does that go? That's the 33 million that's being spent locally just at like those. About 1.4 billion of that is that construction program statewide. And the other 300 million is our operations budget. That's our maintenance budget. That's the crews, dump trucks out there. Now we go to the next. So that 1.4 billion our construction program, where we allocate that money towards that first goal is safety, 58 million statewide. We have to spend it by federal highways requirements because of where MoDOT's, where the state of Missouri is with existing laws on seatbelt usage. Right now, Missouri doesn't have the primary seatbelt. Our common law just got repealed. There's a number of different safety laws that are not in place by that formula. Federal highway requires, because of that we have to spend a certain percentage on safety projects. If we had those laws in place, we actually wouldn't have to spend that money on safety projects. And I'll get it. We actually internally we call that open containment funds, because the primary reason is we don't have an open containment law. Asset management. So about half that money goes towards asset management. That is just our resurfacing. So overlays, bridge redux, that, and then system improvements. This is any time that the pavement is getting wider. So asset, figure it as asset management is just overlays. Anytime things get bigger, that's system improvements. Those numbers are really going to change with project inflation. We're seeing project costs this year up about 30% from years past last year. We normally budget 3%. Every year, so our construction program estimates. It's a rolling 5-year plan. Every year we expect 100% inflation. And for the county year 22 to 23, or fiscal year 22 to 23, we saw 30. So what does that mean? Well, first, we gotta take care of safety, because we have to. Second is asset management, because we gotta take care of what we already have. We don't wanna make it any bigger if we don't have money. So next time I present this slide, it could be a lot more skewed towards asset management, not system expansion. Here's a comparison. I talked about your state gas tax, which you pay per pump. Comparison to our neighboring states. The only state that still currently has or pays less per pump is Oklahoma. Of all our neighboring states. Once you get through job plan, what do you notice that when you get into total establishments? So they have a supplementary revenue source. So just for comparison, our neighboring states, especially the one out to the east of us, what you pay per pump, the differences there. So back to local, what are we doing with our $33 million here at the lake? I'm going to talk about a pretty contentious item. J-turns, for those that travel towards Jefferson City right now, we just installed a handful of them. We made improvements, safety improvements at 16 at-grade crossings, 154, in Miller County alone. J-turns, what do they do? Well, they're inconvenient. I've been told, listen to the radio show, as I said it on Monday. They do cause you to drive out of your way. Cause you to backtrack, we understand that. What they don't do is allow you to make a left turn. And what that prevents is that right angle crash as you turn left out of the sidewalk, potentially pull out in front of the people traveling at 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, off of 40, and a right angle crash impact right there on my driver's side. So while I can empathize, I understand that it's frustrating. I understand that it's new, it can be difficult to navigate. It's a whole heck of a lot safer, and our stats or our statistics prove that it's reducing crashes and really was disabling during those fatal crashes. Resurfacing projects, so back to asset management. So what are we resurfacing? And I really want to highlight the first two bullets. That's under one contract, capital paving. If you drive north over sales, you stand the guardrail work, we put it out in front of it. Of that $33 million, those first two bullets actually account for 16. So that's about half of the amount of projects, the money going toward resurfacing from basically the Niagara Bridge on 5, almost all the way to Tiffin, and then over to Coal Camp on 52. The rest of those, if you see a project on this list that you want to talk about, get with me afterwards. I'll get you the project details. Those seal coats, those chip seals, I do want to highlight that. I know those aren't very well received, but they serve a purpose. The type of traffic, the volume of traffic on those more minor routes, and what chip seals do for us is buy potentially 4, 5, 8 more years out of pavement that would otherwise have to be resurfaced. And when you're talking about 60 lane miles of pavement for that 16 million before resurface versus a couple hundred for 2. So it's just the economic decision, the more cost feasible decision to try to buy more time, keep those pavements sealed up, water elements can't get to them, and keep them in the condition they're in now for a whole heck of a lot cheaper. Next slide is about bridges. Real big impact. And the one I know I'm going to probably get chewed on for a little bit, cussed out quite a bit. Who knows what's going on Grand Blaze Bridge this summer? For upwards of about a 7-day window on any one particular lane. We're going to close the Grand Blaze Bridge. Not entirely. There will be at least one lane of traffic open in each direction. So if you listen to KRMS, listen Monday, we have a pre-construction for the contractor that's going to award that contract. Pre-construction meeting, I'll have a very scheduled, detailed schedule on Friday, ready to present that a little more publicly. From conversations, we are trying to get the Grand Blaze Bridge done before Memorial. That's the biggest impact on 54. Show of hands real quick. Who knows how many cars a day? Let's take a stab. How many cars a day drive across the street?
I'd say 40,000.
almost 60. The Grand Blaze Bridge carries more traffic than Interstate 44 in Cleveland County, outside of that. You know, that's crazy.
Is that a lot of the locals or we get more tourists coming down?
Because it's a farm point that serves as the parkway and the expressway. If I had to guess, I'd say probably split 50-50 between train and traffic and local, just commuters going to the other side of the St. Beach. So that impact on 54 on the Grand Street Bridge is the biggest one. The other 11 or 10 bridges, I should say, or the one on the Niagara Bridge, we're gonna do the same thing. So that scope of work, I probably should let you know, it's not a real major scope of work. If you all drive across Niagara Dam right now, the work we did there a couple of years ago to just seal up the sidewalk. You look at the sidewalk, it's got a unique texture on it right now. We're gonna do that. We're gonna seal up those bridge decks and keep, again, right now we found that there's a little micro cracking in the surface that's gonna allow salt and water to penetrate that. We're gonna get that sealed up. So that's all we're doing as far as scope of work. But what it takes to do that, the cure time, that epoxy, is gonna cause it to be closed for upwards of 7 days potentially. I don't want to commit quite yet, but I'll find out more on Friday on their plan to get that. We're doing the same thing on the Niagara Bridge. But the Niagara Bridge is wide enough, we're going to maintain two lanes of traffic. You won't see as big of an impact, but it will be reduced lane length. The other 10 bridges in the middle of Osage Beach from KK all the way to 222, all those overpass bridges will be the same thing. So if you go to the hospital on Nichols Road, expect delays. Use the KK interchange for whatever reason you did not KK. Expect delays there. Those are going to be ones that we're going to do over the summer. So after Memorial Day.
What's the life of the epoxy?
Oh, your guess is probably as good as mine. I'm far from the expert on epoxy. Tell you what, if you listen Monday, I'll get that answer on the radio. But I don't want to commit to it for the time frame. I mean, we design structures right now, and so they actually have a 100-year design life. We used to design in the 80s. We know there are a lot of bridges that are designed for 80 years and it's still open. Still safe to use, but still open beyond their design life. So now we design it for 100. I would hope that the epoxy and hopefully we don't have to come back out there. The bridges are all about 10 years old right now. For 90 years. And then those other smaller bridges, if you live down, probably the biggest thing is Miller C. There's 2 bridges. One's right there closer to Bromley, right to the 2. The other one's a little ways south of Richmond. Of course, both bridges can't be closed at the same time. Only can close one at one time. But if you drive C between Richland and back towards Bromley, you're getting around 54. In that area, you'll be impacted. Major traffic impacts. So I pretty much already talked about the lane closures on the Grand Blaze Bridge. One thing I didn't highlight necessarily is the ramp closure. So if you are trying to leave Panera and you want to just go to Barclays for that week at a time, we're actually, I'll find out more Friday, but our contract allows the contractor to close the ramp and one lane at a time. So that means one lane of traffic. So if you're leaving Passover Road during that time period when that transport, remember you have to drive all the way to the one-way couple, get around, or you have to go to the caves because the Jeffries Road ramp will be closed as well.
I understand your plan is to take Highway 54 right out here, make it 4 lanes, so that's not again.
Correct. So that's a couple years out still. Believe we're set up for a December of 24 wedding. I may be mistaken with another project. No, that's next year. Construction's in next year, so it'd be December of 23. Forgive me, I got about 70 projects up in my head. I'm trying to think of it. Right now, we're a few months out from our final plans. We haven't even finished our final plans. It will, it's called an A date, that's our right-of-way position date. That's when we can actually negotiate with landowners to acquire the easements necessary for that development job. That, the scope of that job is essentially to match what's on the other side of the square. It'll be 11-foot driving lanes, 12-foot center twiddle, called a twiddle. It's a two-way left turn lane. It'll be 5 lanes, all the way from the square rebuilt to Bunker Hill Road.
Don't plan. Put Highway 54 around him.
No, sir.
I've heard that comment that it's so, traffic so heavy, that it can't get through and, I don't know any solution.
Well, so in theory, the best solution is obviously for congestion mitigation for alternative routes. So you've got high volumes of traffic backed up. Alternative route, that will just completely remove that traffic from that roadway and give them better access or different access. I'll be honest, there's obviously a handful of businesses, the city is opposed to it. And I understand that fear of Osage Beach Parkway West. The concerns that folks have that the 54 expressway can cameras and anything like that. There's a lot more variables than just that is the Parkway West. So if that's not an option, what I continue to remind the city is as they come with congestion concerns, well, how do you get traffic to flow through there next? If you can't get it off there, how do you get it just to keep moving? And that's access control. So I talked about, we were never built 54 what it is today. Imagine trying to do a business over there and go down one street and you want your access points. You want your driveways. How will that be this? But
Shane, are you guys gonna do anything, you're about to break legs, are you gonna do anything in regards to the big development there that's going to be building?
so the Oasis, at Lakeport, the amusement park, they have finally came to us. They are working on their parameters, the requirements in their traffic impact study, TIS. I actually have a meeting with them again at 11 o'clock today. So to discuss their volumes, their counts, the expected traffic impact that we'll have. So that's our primary concern, obviously, Jeffries is secondary to backup on it. With their respective approach. Nichols is the same way. Nichols is intersections. We can control that better. Will be frustrating for the folks on Nichols. Maybe because we're not going to allow traffic to happen. That's priority one. If you have to sit in traffic on Jeffries to the amusement park or to leave the amusement park, that's what's going to have to happen. Can't allow it to back up. But no more meetings, more meetings to come. So no, they're working on their submittal for the traffic impact study. But my next slide is really just about it. So more questions. Who has more MoDot questions?
So I'll throw the toll bridge out there. Estimated it's going to be turned over to you in the next 2 years, I think.
So I'm probably not the best, not even the best writer to probably answer this question. But I can say, repeat their commitments. So in 1996, the community bridge took up bonds, the amount of $40 million to construct. It was on a 30-year debt service. So those bonds, they did refinance in 2012, which gave them reduced their interest rate from 3 down to something, which saved them. They have committed publicly the original 30-year payoff. But more to come on that probably in the very near future. You might hear from another writer on. But a little bit inside scope. They're doing well and they're going to meet that 2026 original finance.
So all the land you've acquired for constructing the TT down the toll road, you're not getting in trouble with it. Planning on that when the bridge is physically turned over.
The way project development works from step one, identify the need. right now, our current process is we rely on the CCs, our planning partner, which is the most responsible for this. And specifically the tech, transportation advisory committee. We're about 20, mostly elected, full-time elected councilors in the 4 county area that we serve. They're actually going to vote here in about 4 weeks at their next meeting on the updated annual priorities, the unfunded needs list. You probably heard that from them. So it starts with actually that group and talking to your local elected officials who serve on the boards. Or those people that serve on the board next meeting, the requests and concerns. And you don't really want it to be MoDOT's list. It's not my list. This is the list of other neighbors and other generate needs list. Last year, MMTTNF actually fell out of the top 5. So MoDOT, we requested they put in the top 5. 3 of their top 5 were right here, essentially in Canton. Industrial on 5, 54 safety improvements, up to Route 7. As well as 135, the Kansas City Lake the Ozarks connector has always been a top 5. That's what we're going with. MMTTNF historically is the top. This last round of voting, it actually dropped out of the top 5. But back to, if you back all the way up to the distribution funds, the arrows. So the way those projects get developed. So back to that system improvement type projects. But once we spend all our asset management money, we maintain our payment percentage goals, the bridges and goals, which is that numbers are very low. Once we can maintain those, that's when we have those available funds, those system expansion jobs, or those unfunded needs. So when those funds are available, that's the list we go to pick projects. That's how we know if that will come budgetary constraints to be able to do $1 million worth of improvements on the question. Perfect example. So when funds are available, that's the list we go to that's generated by planning partners. If you're interested in trying to promote MMTTNF, I contact probably Ike Skelton. I'll be honest, my dad serves on the transportation advisory committee as well. So, of course, that's his place on that committee is representing the bridge. That's obviously his first part of the team, and it's trying to rank those and prioritize them, essentially score them against 5 and 54 interchange. Congestion at Lake O'Brien Road, 54. Safety improvements at Dollar General, or the 2-lane section essentially from the Mango Bridge up to Route 7 on the Glory, most local priorities. Scoring against 11 alternative route around Jefferson Street if you drop the 11 on Route 5. So we take that top 5 locally, then we actually score those top 5 locally against the rest of Central District, and that's the alternate list that we go and depending on budget and more so safety factors, reduce crashes. This is something that's the list we go to pick those projects to get into our construction. Part of that 33 million. Portion of that 33 million. Not honest.
What are you gonna do in 2030? 50% of all states.
And the equivalent fuel tax, that's talked about a lot, right? So right now, I mean, you license your electric vehicle and you don't pay a cent for fuel tax. So what is the equivalent tax? That's a legislative question. So, Lisa Thomas, she's got any crazy ideas or alternative solutions to that? It's a real problem. And trying to get that passed. When you come up with and put on what a fuel tax to like.
11 to bypass still.
It's identified as an unfunded need. It continues to be identified actually locally as the highest unfunded area. By the TAC, by the local government, council, local governments. It's identified as a tier 2 unfunded need. And in our terms, tier 2 being we can deliver that should funds become available. If we've got the money in our budget, we could deliver that project.
So the developers are standing right away.
And we can't do that until we have a project program, our budget shows that we've got the funds available for it. We've completed final plans similar to what we've got on 54. If you go to our website, you'll see there's preliminary plans posted. Until we get some of the utility issues right now, we're trying to get relocated. Until those are finalized and stamped by the PE, we can negotiate right away.
Sitting down there.
The essentially an alternative route.
Yeah.
Yes, very much. Now, their plan is nearly adjacent with more restricted access and access control. But targeted more towards nearby. It will really just serve as an alternative. So it may not take. And it may look, it's not going to look like an expression. What spends. Were you listening Monday? So caller before the same question. The answer is no. Right now, so Herb's has hired a engineering firm submit the feasibility stage. Study for that signal. The short answer is no. In its current configuration with the number of driveways, we're talking to the bank across the street, in the middle. The answer is no. Not until access control is more standard, the signal can function appropriately. That signal, right as it sits right now, is just a gas station. It's in the middle of those three inverters. If we put a signal there right now, we're functioning. Suggestion.
In your list of funds available, you use certain areas you require to stand.
So that would be like the J fund. So the projects that have a benefit cost to improve the same is the. So high friction turbine here. Driving before to do my you want to create get around. Right now, the texture on the surface, it's the color. High friction turbine, dollars general on 5 rather than a premium. Safety improvement projects. Data, that we all produces financially. We didn't say goodbye. Sir.
One last thing, and I want to comment how proud I am of MoDot and all that they do, and as good as they are, but not everybody's perfect. And can I point out one thing that I think is an error? Of course. Okay, I went to the store, coming west through the Creek. And you come down the hill, you cross the street, you pass B Road, and you cross the creek again, and the sign says Ten Creek, but that's Willow Creek, that's not Lenny Creek. Creeks, you don't say anybody crossing.
I'll dive further into it.
Yeah.
That's your worst problem.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I know we're getting short on time and great information, and I know if you've got further